Xtalks is the industry leader in connecting life science, food, healthcare, and medical device professionals. The Xtalks Life Science Podcast features insightful conversations with industry experts about all things pharma, biotech, and more.
Hello and welcome to the Xtalks Life Science Podcast. I'm Ayesha Rashid, Senior Life Science Journalist at Xtalks.com, and this week I am happy to introduce yet again another special guest on our show. With us, we have Dr. Michael Thurn, who is the Managing Director and CEO of Neurizon Therapeutics, which is a company focused on advancing treatments for neurodegenerative diseases, including ALS, with expansion efforts in other diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Huntington's, and others. Dr. Thurn has broad experience in drug discovery, development, regulation, and commercialization, acquired through leadership roles in research organizations and in industry. Dr. Thurn has led a variety of FDA IND applications across a range of therapeutic areas, and the evaluation of drugs and vaccines for registration in Australia as a part of the drug safety evaluation branch of the Therapeutics Goods Administration. Dr. Thurn has led the execution of Phase 1 and Phase 2 clinical trials and business development activities across animal and human health products. Dr. Thurn has over 25 years of biotech experience with a strong track record in entrepreneurship and leadership, including co-founding MARP Therapeutics and holding leadership roles at companies including Botanix, Mimetica, and Spinifex, among others. To learn more about the work that Dr. Thurn is now leading and helming at Neurizon Therapeutics, let's turn to him now. Thank you so much for being on the show with us today, Dr. Thurn.
No, thanks very much for having me.
I'd like to start off by asking you, again, I love speaking to CEOs and leadership and leaders in this space and biotech, again, an ever-evolving field, and just to learn more about their journey and how how that has led up to you particularly taking the helm at Neurizon Therapeutics. So could you tell us a bit more about your background in biotech, that journey, and what led you to Neurizon today?
Yes, certainly. I feel as though I'm one of the lucky ones in terms of doing what I love, and that all really started back at university. And at university, I finished my degree, which was in immunology. Back then, monoclonal antibodies weren't really a thing. But during my PhD, monoclonal antibodies became a thing. So I had the experience, the laboratory experience to be able to make some monoclonal antibodies back in those days for my PhD, and it was really my PhD that led me on this journey, and the journey of doing basic research and then putting it towards an applied application. So my PhD was all devoted towards identifying some neurotoxins in the Australian paralysis tick, and by isolating those neurotoxins, it was the building block towards developing a vaccine. And as a result of my PhD, the thesis, the dossier that was produced, ended up being in-licensed to one of the very first biotechnology companies in Australia. So it was really that exposure, that ability to turn that basic research into an applied setting, and I'm very proud to say that that particular work, my thesis, has gone on to result in a vaccine against the Australian paralysis tick in Australia. So very proud to be associated with that. But from there, I went on and did a postdoc at the Australian Institute of Marine Science, and from there I was able to find my way back into biotechnology and be involved in a number of companies, and a number of successful companies, ones that we're in oncology and pain, but all the way along, I guess I had that opportunity to interact with patients, and it was really through that interaction with patients and seeing firsthand, how potentially I was making a difference to their lives, their outcomes, that really inspired me and really motivated me to do the best I could and devote so much time towards developing new drugs, making sure that they were developed as fast as they could to the best quality. And that's where having some regulatory background has really helped over the years as well, to understand that pathway, so drugs can be developed as quickly as possible, so they can be made available to patients. And that's particularly relevant to my current position in developing drugs for ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, as it's known in the US. In Australia, we call it motor neuron disease, but this is a disease that's absolutely devastating. And currently the average life expectancy of a patient once they're diagnosed, and I really shouldn't call them patients, they're really, I like the term that's used often here in the US when you talk to patients, they're ALS warriors, and they really are. They're inspiring. Yeah.
Indeed, and thank you so much for that overview and for sharing that journey. Immensely incredible in terms of how you were able to make translational contributions right from the get-go, out of your PhD, and then coming such a long way from that and building on that, and now doing such important critical work in the ALS space. So thank you so much for sharing that. And in terms of Neurizon, what led you to the company, and what is it about the company's mission and goals that really attracted, and appealed to you, and how are you driving those forward?
Yeah, so being involved in a rare disease to begin with was a major attraction for me, and being involved in a pursuit, if you like, for bringing forward a treatment that's going to be hopefully a game changer from the point of view that currently the state of treatment for patients with ALS is there's not much to look forward to. If you talk to patients, these ALS warriors, they it's the day that they're told that they have ALS, it's basically viewed as a death sentence. So to be involved in trying to change that to being more outward looking, something to look forward to in these patients' lives is just incredibly motivating, and like I said before, it's inspiring. So Neurizon Therapeutics, where we're looking to really change the way companies look at ALS, and we're very patient facing in terms of we have three core strategic pillars, and they're all based around the patient. So we're looking to accelerate patient hope and access, and the way that we hope to do that is by making the drug that we're developing, NUZ001, available to patients as soon as possible. And we're doing that now. We're doing that through providing drug in Australia through compassionate use program. We're hoping to extend that in the US through other special access schemes. In the US, there's currently the expanded access program where you can apply to the NIH for funding. So we're actively looking at that at the moment. And there's also other patient schemes, access schemes that we are also evaluating and hopefully can accelerate the way that we can gain, or patients can gain access to drugs that we're developing. The other strategic pillar that we have is again around accelerating. So the way that we're accelerating access to as many people as possible is through our recent acceptance in the Healy ALS platform trial. So the Healy ALS platform trial is ran out of Mass General, and this platform trial has been designed to take the most promising drugs for ALS, put them into the Healy platform trial with the view that there's a way to accelerate the development. So the Healy platform trial, there's over 70 sites around the US. And because of the way that the study design of the platform trial, there's a way to accelerate or cut down the time that would normally be required to develop the drug through this stage, this clinical stage, and then present it to the FDA for an accelerated approval process. So we're very fortunate that we were accepted into the Healy ALS platform trial last year, and we're moving towards being in a position to start our regimen in the Healy platform trial in the last half of this year. The final pillar is for us is unlocking the potential of the drug that we have and expanding the scientific application or the clinical application of the drug. And here we're exploring, because there's the mechanism of action of the drug that we're developing could be applicable to other neurodegenerative diseases like Huntington's disease, like Alzheimer's disease, and Parkinson's disease, because all these diseases, these rare diseases in general, neurodegenerative diseases have a common pathology associated with them. It's called proteopathy, and the proteopathy part is basically brought about by a toxic buildup of a protein in the neuron. So in ALS, for example, it affects the toxic protein builds up in the motor neuron, and it's a specific protein called TDP-43. I'm sure most of your listeners have heard of tau. Tau is associated with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. And then I'm sure your listeners have heard of amyloid as well. So amyloid plaques in the brain, that's associated with Alzheimer's disease. So we potentially have a drug that could be used because of its mechanism of action of preventing the buildup of these proteins in the precious part of our brains to be able to treat, prolong the life, and potentially reverse some of the effects of these diseases. So that's really exciting for me, really exciting for the company to potentially have one drug that could be beneficial in a wide variety of different neurodegenerative diseases.
Indeed. And in terms of really the scientific approach behind the drug that you're developing, your core lead asset, what can you tell us about that, and how does Neurizon's approach differ from others in this space?
So ours has a kind of unique background, and it's unique from the point of view that the drug that we're developing, it originated from a veterinary use. So the drug is approved for veterinary use as what they call an anti-helminth. And an anti-helminth is an agent that is able to treat infestation of worms in the guts of sheep or other animals. So that was that's the unusual aspect of what we're doing, the origins of the drug. Now, while it's unusual, it's also beneficial from the point of view that a lot of the work that's normally associated with drug development, like making sure that the drug is safe in animals before you proceed in humans, making sure that you can manufacture the drug at reasonable quantities, in fact, commercial scale. All that work has been done because it's a veterinary product. So for us, the last part of the puzzle is the clinical trial in humans to show efficacy and safety in humans. And we're obviously doing that through being accepted in the Healy platform trial. And this all kind of fits with our second pillar in terms of accelerating the development of promising new drugs for ALS. So we've got the manufacturing sorted out because it's already a veterinary product. We've got the animal safety sorted out because it's already a veterinary product. We just need to complete that picture by demonstrating efficacy and long-term safety in humans. And that's where the Healy platform trial fits in. So all going well, because it's a veterinary drug, because we're accepted into the Healy platform trial, there's a very good likelihood, should the trial be successful at Healy, that we could bring this drug to people, make it available to people in 2027. So that's not too far away at all.
Yeah, indeed. That's really fascinating, in essentially repurposing a drug and obviously translating it from one model, an animal model, into humans. So that's very, very exciting. And so in terms of sort of what kinds of targets are you looking at in ALS, and if with this drug? So what kind of what's the biology that it targets, and also when we talk about clinical trials and readouts, biomarkers, and all of those kinds of endpoints, can you speak to some of those aspects?
I can. So as I mentioned before, proteopathy. So what's the proteopathy? The buildup of toxic protein in ALS. It's a protein called TDP-43, and in fact, 97% of the cases in ALS have a buildup of that particular toxic protein, TDP-43. Our mechanism of action is to remove or prevent the buildup of that toxic protein, and the way that the drug works is that it restores proteostasis. So proteostasis is that way that your cell, and in this case, given that it's ALS, motor neuron, the way that your motor neuron restores that buildup of toxic protein. How does it do that? And we have a mechanism which our drugs activates to remove that toxic buildup of protein. So by doing that, it then restores the motor neuron to being closer to normal. And because it's closer to normal, it has more of an opportunity to repair itself, regenerate. And that's certainly what we're sort of seeing in our clinical trials that have been done to date. So we've done a small clinical trial. That small clinical trial has been able to show that we slow down the rate of disease progression in patients with ALS. And the way that we know that is we've been able to compare back to a natural history database. So in the US, there's a database, a natural history database called PROACT database, which contains an enormous number of data points from natural history, following patients through their journey with this disease. And we're able to match our patients quite closely to patients that are in that natural history database. Then we compare what the patients that they've been matched to in that natural history database, what their disease progression was like, and look back at the patients that received our drug and make a comparison. And when we do that, we show that the drug is slowing down disease progression by close to 40%, which is somewhat a major breakthrough for patients with ALS. It's only a small number of patients at this point, but it's promising enough, obviously, to warrant our selection in the Healy platform trial. And it's also been enough to warrant special designations that the FDA has, like orphan drug designation, to help facilitate the rapid advancement of the drug through to a possible accelerated approval. So all that designation, scientific evidence behind the mechanism of action, the early clinical trial results that we saw in these 12 patients, and a lot of those patients are still alive. They've been on drug for up to 2.5 years now, which is a great result in itself. All that information is giving us a lot of confidence that we've got something new, something that's going to help benefit patients or these ALS warriors in the future.
That's wonderful and quite remarkable to hear in terms of the early success with this treatment, with this drug. So that's very, very wonderful. And in terms of when we talk about clinical development strategies, what are some of the challenges, of course, with a rare disease and a disease like ALS with such pressing unmet need? What kinds of considerations go into clinical trial design from early development stages through to later stage trials? What are the kinds of things that you have to consider and keep in mind when you're designing those trials?
Yeah, it's a complex disease. So, there's about 10% of ALS is genetic. It's passed down through family members, through your parents. That needs to be taken into account. The other 90%, which they call sporadic, there's probably some genetic component, there's probably an environmental component. So they commonly refer to ALS as being a heterogeneous disease. So that makes it especially challenging. So the way that we feel that we can address that is the way that we're attacking the problem. And the problem is the build-up, this proteopathy, the build-up of TDP-43. We're attacking it downstream. So all these other inputs, whether it's genetic, whether it's environmental, is leading to the end product. And the end product is the build-up of toxic protein TDP-43. And we have a way of removing and preventing the toxic buildup of the aggregates of TDP-43. So that's why we're reasonably confident that we have a treatment that can be used, not only for sporadic, so 90% of the patients, but a good majority of the patients that have the genetic aspect of ALS, because it all results in the buildup of TDP-43, and we have a way of removing that buildup of TDP-43. The other aspect in terms of study design is aligning with the key opinion leaders in the world around study design, experience with different drugs, learning from the failures, being able to incorporate those learnings into a study design. The other important aspect is interacting with the regulator. So in this case, the FDA, because the FDA, they don't publish their results. They don't tell you how many drugs that are in development for ALS. So there's many companies out there that you may not even hear of that have been through the FDA or have consulted with the FDA that the FDA can then use to help provide you with advice on certain aspects of the study design that you need to take into account, you need to incorporate, you need to be aware of. So having key opinion leaders, having feedback from the regulators, all helps towards making sure that the study design that you're putting together and going to execute has the most chance of success. Another important aspect, particularly for neurodegenerative diseases, and we've seen it quite recently, one being in Alzheimer's, is biomarkers. So biomarkers are becoming more and more the rage in terms of being able to use them as a way not only to select patients or to diagnose if you have a particular condition. They're very useful in monitoring the effects of a treatment. So in our case, and in most of the neurodegenerative diseases, you can use a validated, and that's another important aspect. The biomarker needs to be validated that there's a correlation between using that biomarker and the level of that biomarker and a progression in the disease or an outcome in the disease. We're fortunate that we have a validated biomarker in neurofilament light chain, or NFL, which was the primary reason the last drug was approved for ALS. That drug, which is now available in the US, it is a drug that it's an antisense. It's a gene therapy that only targets a specific mutation in the SOD1 gene. So only 2% of the patients with ALS can benefit from that particular drug, but it was approved based on a biomarker. So KOLs, feedback from the FDA, making sure that you have a robust, validated biomarker, all together comes into ensuring that you put the best foot forward, your best foot forward for the drug, in order to be able to be a success at the end of the day once that clinical trial is run. Another important aspect, particularly for this patient population, is you've got to construct these trials ethically. So the last thing that you want to do is have such a large proportion of patients on placebo. By being in the Healy platform trial, because of its innovative study design, you're able to what they call share placebo. So share placebos with other regimens that are in the platform trial. That then limits the number of patients that are exposed to placebo. And obviously, if they're exposed to placebo or they take the placebo, there's less likelihood that they're going to get a benefit. So that's another important consideration when you design these trials, is to make sure that you can limit the number of patients that are on placebo and increase your chance of participation in your trial. And if you increase the chance of participation, then you've got a greater chance of concluding that study as quick as possible. And should it be positive, then making the drug available to as many potential patients as possible through an approval process.
And in terms of, it kind of relates to this in terms of all of the considerations, aspects. You mentioned the important role of engaging with regulators. So who are the different stakeholders when it comes to this whole process of drug development and getting a drug through trials and to market? Of course, the patient advocacy groups, the patients themselves, the warriors, as you aptly put it as well. So who are the important stakeholders? And also, we're seeing a lot more partnerships in the biotech space, whether it's between with big pharma, smaller biotech, smaller biopharmaceutical companies, academia. So who are the different, what are the different partnerships that Neurizon may have or may be pursuing in the near future? And how important are those? And who are all of those stakeholders that you really feel should be brought to the same table to really drive forward missions that will really translate into treatments for patients and diseases like ALS?
So you've got to start with the patient. So the patient is the most important starting point. So making sure that you consult with the patient, that you're not designing a trial that ultimately is going to be flawed because it's too complex, it's too burdensome on the patient. There's too many endpoints. Consult with the patient, making sure that participation in the actual trial is going to be rewarding from the point of view that they're going to want to participate, given that these patients, these ALS warriors, they receive a diagnosis and the average life expectancy is only 27 and a half months. So you want to make sure that you're not making this journey as complicated and uncomfortable for these patients. So putting the patient first, extremely important. The other, and there's many other stakeholders. We talked about key opinion leaders. So engaging with those key opinion leaders, the best neurologists in the world that have experience in running studies, sometimes complex studies, but studies that are going to be meaningful and end up being useful, not only for your drug, but potentially other drugs that are currently in development. One of the things that I've noticed more and more is that ALS community, the patient advocacy groups, the other companies that we would like to call our peers, it's a very collaborative and transparent environment. So there's always a view of being collaborative, so learning from each other, because we're all moving towards the same endpoint. We've all got that one goal in providing a breakthrough. Really, at the end of the day, we want patients to have hope, to have a vision where it's more than 6 months. So the current drugs that are available, the medium life expectancy from being on those drugs is only 6 months. So we want patients to have a greater vision, more of an outlook on life than 6 months. So by having that collaborative environment with your peers, which truly is one of the mainstays that we see in this ALS community, will only help bring forward these new breakthroughs in ALS. The other, many stakeholders that we have and work with on a daily basis is leading academic institutions. So we, through the Healy platform trial, are forming a partnership with Mass General. We have a partnership back in Australia with with our clinical sites that were so very important in our initial clinical study, our initial phase 1 study, the 12 patients that we were able to use in that initial clinical study that provided the promising results. So again, hospital clinical sites that really underpin and enable us to do the clinical study and make sure that that's done in the proper framework, the proper quality, to ensure that the results that come out of it are going to be able to push the drug forward. There is also a need, a must-have in terms of being able to collaborate, being able to work with and utilize the various services, the knowledge of the various patient advocacy groups that are around the world. And we were very fortunate that one of the main patient advocacy groups in Australia, FightMND, they actually awarded us a grant for close to $1 million. And in some ways, without that $1 million from FightMND, we wouldn't have the drug in its position that it is today, or even anywhere near being able to put it into the Healy platform trial. So again, without their help and support, we wouldn't bring potentially this offering down the track through an approval process, potentially a very exciting drug to these ALS warriors in the very near future.
And in the very near future, indeed, looking forward to what Neurizon can bring to the table for these ALS warriors for sure, and really wishing you all the best in that endeavor. And I'd like to know, finally, in terms of milestones, what can we expect from Neurizon? What are the important milestones that you're looking forward to this year and in the next couple of years in bringing this therapy to market?
So what's on the horizon for us is starting the Healy platform trial. So we're moving closer and closer to being in a position to start to dose our first patient. We're hoping that that's going to occur in the last quarter of this year. We're certainly putting all the necessary lead up startup activities in place to help ensure that. So that'll be a very exciting milestone for the company once that started, because we then know that there's a pretty definitive timeline from starting the Healy platform trial, dosing our first patient, to when the results are going to be available, because that Healy platform trial, there's been a number of regimens that have already been run through the Healy platform trial, so we can get a clear line of sight to when those results are likely to be available. We're also very excited about the opportunity to look at the other neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's disease. We're doing more work in Huntington's disease. We saw a very favorable response to our drug NUZ001 in a model for Huntington's disease. So that's quite exciting. That's another rare disease where there is no cures, there's no disease modifying drugs. There's really only drugs that are available to treat the symptoms associated with Huntington's disease. So moving forward, some of these other programs like Huntington's disease, starting to get more data around Alzheimer's disease, more data around Parkinson's disease, and where that's likely to lead us is access to potential grant funding to help expedite NUZ001 for investigation in trials in Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, and Huntington disease. So that kind of forms the excitement, the near term milestones that we're looking to do and hopefully successfully deliver at Neurizon over the next six to 12 months.
Sounds wonderful. And just a quick question I wanted to ask you in terms of how do you, as a leader, how in the biotech space, which is ever evolving, how do you keep driving, the projects, the innovations, and then balancing that with corporate strategies and everything else that goes into a biotech company? And how has the space evolved, and how do you keep on top of things as the leader driving everything forward?
Yeah, it's not easy, but it becomes easier when you develop a team. You identify individuals that fit within the culture of the company, that are all striving towards the same goal, and that's certainly a major attribute of the individuals, the team members that we have at Neurizon. So. I didn't mention it before, but Neurizon, we're small, we're nimble, we're very dedicated in our passion to bring forward as fast as possible a new therapy for ALS and other neurodegenerative diseases. We do that on a 24/7 basis, and the reason why I can comfortably say that is because we in fact have people all around the world that are working on this. So we have team members in Australia, we have team members in the US, and we also have individuals in Europe. So this project has a 24/7 focus, which is fantastic, because it really means that we're able to accelerate the development of this promising treatment. So I think, building the team has been very important for us, building the team at the right time. And largely that's been based on, some exciting data that we've been able to generate, but all working towards that one clear goal. And that one clear goal for us is, making a better treatment to a patient population, these ALS warriors that really deserve it. They deserve a lot better than what they currently have, and that's really motivating.
Dr. Thurn, thank you so much for your time, your insights, and above all, the incredible work that you are leading at Neurizon for these ALS warriors. And we wish you the best in everything and all of the amazing work that you are leading at the company, and really looking forward to seeing those milestones. And we here at Xtalks will definitely be keeping an eye out for those and keeping in touch. So thank you once again for your time today.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
All right, that's the end of this episode of the Xtalks Life Science Podcast. If you liked today's show, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.
To join the Xtalks community, visit xtalks.com and register for exclusive access to curated content like live webinars, news articles, and educational videos. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the speakers sharing them and should not be taken as professional advice, nor do they necessarily reflect the policy or position of Honeycomb Worldwide. For further information, email us at podcast@xtalks.com.